Welcome to the podcast Crash, Burn, Rise Again, where we share stories of burning out and rebuilding better. Join myself, Shireen Lister, your host, and my special guests as we share our personal journeys through burnout, stress, overwhelm, and more, and show how we came out the other side. Learn and leverage from the lessons and wisdom we gained along the way so we can help you to rise too. Hello and welcome to episode 3. Today I'm Shireen, your host, and I have a beautiful guest speaker with me today, the lovely Dawn from Innerself Coaching. Thank you so much for being here, Dawn. It's my pleasure to have you.
I feel privileged to be your inaugural interviewee.
No, it's so exciting. I was just saying to Dawn when we got chatting before that we've not had a one-on-one chat before, but I've been stalking Dawn a little on the socials for a while, and we swim in some common circles, and it's fantastic to meet you for real and to hear more of what you do, because Dawn is full of beautiful wisdom, particularly for women. We're direction in our life with finding ourselves, and I tell you what, I wish I'd met you 4 years ago, Dawn, before I started the journey down my personal development, because I was lost. So if I had have not found that, I would have loved to have found someone like you. So can you share a little bit with people about your business, who you help, what you do, just so they can learn?
Thank you. Thank you for that nice introduction. And likewise, isn't it, when we do swim in the same circles, it's really lovely to cross paths and everything like that. And it's beautiful. And again, thanks for having me here and your audience for listening to me. So I'm Dawn Walton, and I'm a life coach. I call myself the female identity coach, and I coach women who have lost sight of who they are. They've lost their identity for various reasons and at various stages in their lives. I help women reignite their identity, sometimes reinvent their identity, by building confidence, communicating boundaries, making themselves a priority, and stop making excuses and start making decisions that help them forge their way in the world. You know, I'm a believer that us as women, we can generally morph into other people's values, what other people's goals are. We're natural nurturers, you know, by and large. And so when we sit down and take some time to unravel what our own wants, needs, and desires are, this can be so powerful. And these can happen at any time, any stage of someone's life. And I think we've all felt it. You just touched on it there, that 4 years ago, sometimes we wake up, sometimes it's a big thing. It might be divorce, it might be being made redundant, it could be having a baby, it could be the death of someone close to you. Or it could just be you wake up and you just go, I'm just not where I thought I would be at this stage in my life. And I myself am a late blooming mother. I had my one and only child at 49 years of age, with the help of science and medicine, I may say. And I juggle a family holiday accommodation business with my partner. And it's not just an Airbnb with a couple of beds. We seat 42 people. So it's a real business. And again, I'm a sister, a mother, I'm a friend, and I'm a coach. I love a glass of wine, I love cooking, and I love the ironing. But I'm a real combination of different stuff. I'm not an extreme sport person. My idea of an extreme sport is swimming up to a pool bar. But I know what the juggle is like, and I know that trying to keep all the balls in the air can be difficult, and we do drop them, and we do burn out. You know, I've come from a corporate background, but that seems like eons ago, when it's actually 6 years ago. And yes, I'm here as a coach to help women identify who they are and what they want to be.
Fantastic. Oh, thank you so much. That's a beautiful overview and an introduction to you. It's lovely. And yeah, I think it is so valuable, the work that you do, and it crosses over so much with the concepts behind a lot of what I do with helping people with that holistic well-being as well, about, you know, boundaries and communication and confidence. But I think it's so important, as you say, women often, we really can get lost in all the other roles that we play other than us, and we just lose sight of it. And for me, mine was someone, I was seeing a healer, an energy healer one day, and she said to me, well, just do some more of what you love to do. And I just looked at her blankly, and she said, what do you love to do? And in that moment, I honestly could not say a single thing. And I realized I'd lost touch with myself. And that was kind of my catalyst. It wasn't, I knew I was unhappy, I knew things weren't working, but there was no thing. It was just, I went, holy crap, I don't even know who I am anymore.
It's amazing that that's more common than we actually think, because we don't talk about it a lot. Mm-hmm. And especially in the world of Instagrams, the whole thing that we put pictures on there of, you know, when the kids are in a march yesterday and stuff like that. And, you know, you don't put the struggles on there. And so people think you're okay. Mm-hmm. And then it's even harder when some people have the trappings of a nice life. And then they think, well, what am I whinging about? I've got nothing to whinge about. I've got nothing to complain about. And what they do is they just generally bury that again a little bit further. And then that takes even longer to uncover.
It does. And that in itself can be sometimes a catalyst for things like burnout and overwhelm and so on, is when we start to bottle up and push down those emotions because we think, oh, I shouldn't be. I think often with burnout, there's a lot of shouldn'ts. I shouldn't be feeling that. I should be able to handle this and all that. But we're all different, and we all can only carry what we can carry at a certain time. And sometimes some people look like, as you're saying, they're carrying all the load, but they're really not. You know, some of those people that are so polished on Instagram, they have, you know, all these helpers around them doing it all, or they're giving this illusion of perfection. And really, they're just struggling as much as we are, if not more sometimes.
It's so true. Yeah. And I so resonate with that should. And that's when I say, you know, you can wake up and think, am I at the stage of the life I want to be at? And that's the question. Not, I should be at a different stage in my life now, or a different place at this stage in my life. It's getting rid of that should, because that's the big comparison trap.
Yeah.
Because when there's a should, that's you're comparing with someone. Whereas when we turn around and say, am I where I want to be at this stage in my life? And that's a big, one word in that communication makes a big difference to that question.
Absolutely. I'm on a mission to erase the word should from our vocabularies.
I'll join you on that one. Absolutely. Erase it.
And I mean, I catch myself sometimes saying it as well, as you might too, but, you know, and then I correct and go, hang on, who told me? Who made that rule that it should be that? Which shows a lot of my old stories and beliefs around being a good girl and being a rule follower is where should comes in as well. And that's what burnt out me a lot. So, and I'm curious to learn more about your story with burnout. So you tell me about now how you're running your business as a coach, your business with the accommodation. It sounds huge. I feel like I could be overwhelmed just doing what you're doing now, but you managed to do it all because you've learned from past experience. And it's always, we walk a tightrope, I think, don't we, of, you know, we can go back there if we're not careful, if we don't have awareness. But you were saying to me before we hopped on the call that, you know, there's sort of a start of your first stage of burnout was many years ago now in a relationship that you're in. And I wonder if you can share with the audience a bit about that for us, Dawn.
I'd love to. When I left a relationship after 15 and a half years, it's just over 10 years ago now. And at that time, the relationship I walked on eggshells for a long, long time in that relationship. And certainly the last 5 years, so out of 15 and a half, the last sort of 5, were quite, when you bury all of that emotion down and energy down, and my close friends will tell you I was a different person socially, at work, and then at home. I was a totally different person. And my outlets became my work and became my social life on that. But my home life, it was like I morphed into someone very, very different. And walking on eggshells for that creates that energy where people again are seeing this vivacious, fun, center of the social networking sort of stuff that I just loved. And at work, I was the organizer. I managed a team of people. I would just get that work hat on straight away, and I would go home and I would be the subservient person. I would be the enabler. I would turn around and say exactly what goals he wanted. It was just easier. He was a narcissist, certainly towards those end years it came out fully. And it was like living in a different life. And whilst the burnout was happening at home, I masked all of that in those two different areas. We'd go and we'd have fun when we went out with friends. I never had children with him. He had two older kids. But, it was just, you would just never see that. But then I had a party. I can't remember. I think from memory, it wasn't a Christmas or anything like that. It was a Nutrimetics party or something like that with friends. And I was helping a friend who was starting out in that. And he came back from golf or something like that. And my friends were so shocked at the behavior of this person that, again, he was seen in a different light. And then what I did was I had to make excuses for his behavior. And then I would say, oh, no, he must just be stressed. He must just be on, because I could remember feeling, I think I'm going to collapse. I think I'm actually going to physically vomit, collapse, because all I just kept doing was, oh, no problem. All right, yeah, I'll get them to go. No problem. We're nearly finished now. That's no problem. And that was the catalyst for that. It was just so awful. But then when they went and it was dispersed at my little party and gathering, which had been such fun, I had friends that didn't know how to speak to me after that, because I think the enormity of, wow, is this what happens at home, was huge for them. And for me, I just pushed it back down again. It's quite emotional talking about it, to be totally fair. And it took a long time for that burnout to come out and for me to get the courage to leave, and which I did just over 10 years ago. But that is a burnout, not in and we talked about it before, and I think a lot of people, me included, would have had burnout as like a corporate word about working, about juggling so many things. But this emotional and energy burnout, I couldn't do. And the day that my friend asked me to go out, and I would say yes to the opening of an envelope, I'd go anywhere. And she just said, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong. And then as she said that, then another friend said, that wasn't acceptable how he talked to you here. And it wasn't. And then that really just started this whole, oh my goodness, I'm worth so much more of this. What am I doing? And how can I do this? But that was my biggest burnout, happened with that, because it was emotionally exhausting. Exhausting.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, I can imagine, especially being someone different in different parts of your life as well. It's just so draining emotionally, and not feeling, you can be at ease with being who you truly want to be in what we would normally expect to be the place where we can be ourselves the most, in a relationship.
That's exactly right. And I remember as a sister-in-law of mine said to me many, many years ago, she said, you can be more lonely in a relationship than you can ever be on your own. And I really felt that myself. And I mean, that was the catalyst for my coaching. And I qualified as a coach when I was with him, but I knew I couldn't do this work with him, because there was such misalignment. And the goals and the things that I thought I had They weren't my goals, they were his goals.
Yeah.
But I'd morphed into it for ease of a home life, for
Yeah.
ease of just this. Oh, yes, I must want it. It sounds really good. That must be what I want.
And I think that's where people do get into this trap of burnout as well sometimes, is when we're chasing other people's goals. And I think that is the overlap of you saying, you know, this is different to work burnout. And I think that's where that can happen as well, is people are trying to do what their boss wants or trying to please other people at work and in business and trying to be like everyone else. The same as, you know, you were trying to fulfill his goals and dreams in your relationship. That's what can wear us down. You know, it's a goal is so much easier to chase when we truly want it inside, when the outcomes and the states that we will get when we reach that goal is aligned with us. It's so much easier to achieve goals and to keep working at them.
And when you know your why, it has to be you. It's not someone else's. You know, when you can convince yourself, you can talk yourself through it and think, oh, well, as a couple, so in my circumstance, as a couple, we can do this, and wouldn't it be great? And this is, and then when I started to unravel that and started to think, oh my goodness, I can't see myself achieving that with him. How does he even remotely think this is going to be possible? And how do I think it is? And that's when the energy started to change. And that's when he could see the change. And it's so many different things. We moved away from friends. You know, he was cutting ties with a few others. You could see that he wasn't happy that I was stepping into my own that little bit.
Yeah.
And he always used to call me the manager, like accentuate the word at work. And he would go, oh, you can't be the manager here. Oh. And it was a lot of gaslighting, a lot of put downs, and people starting to see it. You know, it's almost the external, when we seek external validation, which I think to a degree we all enjoy, the trappings of people saying you've done a good job. And the reverse is true when people see something that isn't working, but then they speak about it. Almost like they're granting you permission to realize it's not okay.
Yeah.
And that was quite a big thing. And without going into it, there were 4 weekends in the month of November, last week of October, and I'll never forget them. And something happened on each of those weekends. And one of the biggest ones was a friend of his. We were out somewhere and he heard how he spoke to me. And he just basically stopped and just said, that is just not acceptable. And again, that was one, my legs giving way and everything, and finally realizing, oh my goodness, what have I done to myself for allowing this to happen?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Someone else has recognized it, and it's been going on for a number of years.
And I think when it's things like gaslighting and manipulation, it takes sometimes someone else to go, oh yeah, for you to go, that is real. It's not just, you know, because sometimes we think it's so in our mind that we're making up these stories about what's going on. So not only that validation of it's okay that you're not wanting to be in it, but, oh, this is actually really happening. It's not just me that thinks this isn't okay. Yeah. And I really like that. You know, there were 2 things that I can see that were starting to happen there with burnout. Was your body was giving you these signals. That was a big part of mine. And I talk in my episode how I don't listen to my body for so long, but it was giving you these really clear cues, you know, when you're feeling ill and you're about to collapse and so on. And then also when you gave yourself permission to start to make change. I think that's a really important lesson for people. As you said, okay, this is how I'm feeling. I have a responsibility in changing how I feel. You know, even though you weren't doing the behaviors here that were unacceptable, you know, as you said, you sort of have allowed yourself to be in that situation. So then when we take responsibility and own it and give ourselves permission to move forward, it was that sort of the steps out of that for you, or, you know, how did you move forward from this journey here?
It was. And again, those 4 weekends, and I always I talk about it as an elastic band. You get elastic band and you pull and it get pulled, and then that fourth weekend it actually snapped. And I don't think if those four things had not happened and the stuff prior, that people were more aware of how this relationship was and that it was a toxic relationship and not just how it was in the social or the work aspect of my life. If that elastic band, as it was getting thinner, I became more resilient. I became more courageous. I started to question. I started to say no. I started to, and that was, it was like a red rag to a bull for him. But for me, it was almost like building some strength inside so that when that snapped, and I have a high tolerance level anyway, I just do. I tolerate a lot in a lot of aspects of my life. It's just the way I am. But when that snapped, there is no going back. There is no, let's talk about this. I will change.
Yeah, we can't just kind of stick the elastic band back together, can we?
You can't. And even when you try it, we've all tried to tie an elastic band, it just comes apart again.
Yeah.
And for me, that was what it was for me. And that was, I didn't leave then because again, there was that, please stay, or am I doing the right thing, and questioning. So it wasn't a simple, the elastic band snapped. I packed my bags and went, and I had a wonderful life after that. It's still, there was a process, but in that process, that's the cathartic process of getting my health back together, not wanting my legs to be like jelly anymore. Starting to think that I need time for myself. Again, like I said, starting to say no, just because I was so used to saying yes. I was just the ideal people pleaser, if you wanted to post a girl for a people pleaser. And just starting, and you know what? People may not have thought I was doing any different. It was huge differences for me.
Yeah.
Huge. And those tiny, small things over time meant that the strength was coming back. And in those times, and I said, I'll happily go and see a counselor. But I was honest there, and that was, the honesty there broke him. And she said, what's the percentage that this can work? And I said, less than 5%. Because I just built myself up from that really low point to think, if I'm gonna sit with a counselor, I need to be wholly honest.
Yeah.
And because as a mediator, he needs to listen to this honesty. And of course, when we got out of that, he said, well, she was obviously on your side because she's a woman. So you couldn't win anyway. But aside from that, that is where when that elastic band went, that was the trigger that then started a cascade of me building myself out of that burnout hole, thinking there's no way out, and start stretching those muscles and using them, even though it wasn't a quantum leap.
Yeah.
And then that was, and I left once, and then I went back thinking, I'll just give it another go. As soon as I put the key in the front door, it was wrong. And then a week later, I was gone for good. So I decided in the June, and I permanently left in the January.
Nice. Oh,
and
well done.
That's when I dug deep, and I started to work out exactly what I wanted. When you haven't done that for a long time, it's hard work.
It is, yeah. I don't think we can't give people the illusion that, it all happens overnight, can we? And that's what I really like. It's not, I burnt out and then the next day my life was all good again. And I like that. And he's saying, it was about stretching and using those muscles, those thoughts, those techniques that you hadn't practiced, and starting small with little changes, thinking about yourself, setting yourself up. Because I think, sometimes if we try and go all out with a change when something's not working too, that can just cause more burnout. perhaps if you had have rushed out of that relationship the next week, you might not have had any foundations for success afterwards, which can be really exhausting as well. And we're still recovering from things.
Again, because you can sometimes and I did throw myself into work, and I did do some things like that, but they brought me so much joy. But the other side of the coin, I didn't know, you mentioned it earlier about not knowing what brought you joy when you went to see a healer. And it's things like that they're the muscles that you need to build to actually think, oh, I actually want to do that, because I'd spent 15 and a half years with someone saying I couldn't do that. What would I know? And to build all of that up from that level of being burnt out, it does take time, and it takes patience. And I will say, I'm 55 years old, and I will tell you now, I didn't really understand the meaning of patience until I was 45.
Yeah, we take some time to learn some things, don't we?
I'm the same
with some stuff. I took a fair while to realize I was even burning out and wrecking my health. It took me probably 10 years or so of figuring that I wasn't working in a constructive way for me. And we can come close to tipping back there. You run two businesses, I run a business on my own, and we can really push ourselves if we let ourselves. So I wonder if, as we sort of start to wrap up, Dawn, if there's any other tips from coming out of that relationship you have for people about avoiding or recovering from burnout, and then also what you do now to not go back there and not get jelly legs again and not sort of crash out in what you do today.
It is, I'm a born potterer, and I like working, and hard work isn't a bad phrase for me. So juggling businesses and everything like that, I don't find it difficult, to be totally fair. But the one key thing that I come back to again, because again, we can slip back into bad habits. We say, those beliefs that we've had, as much as letting go of those, that's work, and we do it. We've been doing it for a long time, so they can come back. And my biggest thing that I do is just remembering who I am. What does Dawn need? What does Dawn want? And all of that, it's a big sentence to sort of ask yourself. But when you come down to that, you don't have to, and I'm lucky, I'm going to say lucky. With my partner now, I remember saying to him, I said, thank you for letting me be me. And his answer was, well, who do you want to be? And I just went, that could not have been a better answer if I'd scripted it myself. And that is the key message for this, is we can morph into so many things, whether we morph into what our children want, what our parents want, what our partner wants, but to come back and to not forget, or to certainly revisit, if you feel you've forgotten, what you want and who you are. Because as you said before, we do wear many hats. That's not going to change. You're always going to be all of those people to all of those people. But knowing what brings you joy, knowing that it's important for you to have that hour off to do something for yourself. And it works different for different people. Or turning around and making that small change and watering, planting a seed and watering it. And we do that with our children every day without thinking about it. We can do that with our partners. We don't have to turn around and do the all or nothing approach. And knowing what we want, when we know who we are and what we want, we can just keep coming back to that. It's like a gift that keeps giving, and it almost creates a bit of an anchor for you. And when you get off track, like I do sometimes, guilt can drop in for me a lot, because I've got so much cleaning. We do it all ourselves, the bookings, the cleaning, the laundry, everything. I have a part-time cleaner when we're really busy. And the guilt for me sitting here doing this when Dirk's now cleaning an apartment, and especially the times when there was no income coming in. My partner is very income driven. I'm very help driven. And those type of things can cause guilt. And then I have to sit down and bring myself back to me. I'm not him. Because if I think about money all the time, that's his goal. It's not mine. So that is one of the most important things I can stress is know what you want, know your vision for your future, know who's in that, know who you want to be. And then you can work out how you can be that person.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you. It's a big question, but it's such an important question. And, sometimes I find it interesting as coaches, we seem to ask such simple questions. Who do you want to, who are you? What do you want? I asked you a beautiful one, what's the purpose of that? When behaviors all the time, and they seem so simple, but they're such profound questions when we actually sit with them and when we keep asking them of ourselves. So thank you so much for that gift of reminding us that, Dawn. And I can see how beautifully, just like my business, that the journey you've been through has shaped what you do as a coach.
Yeah.
And, so it's beautiful how it ties in. So if people are feeling the struggle answering that question, you can reach out and connect with Dawn. She's here for that. It's really exciting at the moment as we're recording this, because it's not going to go out for a few weeks. Dawn's running a free 5-day challenge in her Facebook group that I've been tuning into this week, and it's all about change and how you are there for change, and are you ready, and are you actually making changes that you want in your life and that are for you, which was a really important one that I listened into today. I went, oh yeah, the things I'm doing at the moment, are they actually for me? And just that checking in again. And I think that's how we stay true and stay avoiding some of that overwhelm again, and those shoulds is, is that really my goal? Is it really what I want? And if it is, how do I do it in alignment with myself? Which is super exciting. So thank you for that gift, Dawn.
It really is. And I think, the whole alignment, sometimes people can get really a little bit, they think, oh, it's all a little bit woo-woo, and it isn't. It is just when you focus on what you're good at, what you want to do, what you value in life, it will just flow. Yeah. And that's the big difference. But you have to bring yourself back to that to know that. And thank you for mentioning the change challenge. And it's be the change, because I'm a great believer in there's no one coming to save you. It's brutal, I know. But you have to be the change. A trauma can start something, just as I said, my elastic band, but it doesn't have to be that. You can, no matter what your circumstance is, you can bring the tiniest bit of change into your life, and it can have a major, profound impact, not just on you, but on others as well.
So exciting. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. And I'm going to share in the show notes, I will share the links to Dawn's socials and particularly her Facebook group. So that's where the challenge has taken place. It'll unfortunately be over for this round, but hopefully she might do it again sometime. But Dawn's Facebook group is the Female Identity Project, and all the links will also be on the show notes if you want to check that out and join. It's a very awesome group. With lovely people, and Dawn sharing lots of really valuable content as well. And you can, of course, follow her on all the other socials and places, and I'll share that as well for you, Dawn. Thank you so much for being my guest today, my inaugural guest, and sort of working with me through this as I learned this new thing of being a podcast host as well. And it's been beautiful to learn more about your journey and to see a different perspective on burnout, and some tips for working our way out of it, which I think is always so valuable for people. So thank you once again.
Absolute pleasure, Shireen. Honestly, it was. And I do think it's so important to know that burnout is just not about the corporate workload or, and there's no just about being a mother or those things. It can come from so many aspects: physical, mental, emotional, every different aspect, element, should we say, of that. Thank you for having me here. And I look forward to your audience seeing this inaugural, seeing and hearing this inaugural podcast and YouTube, hopefully. And if anyone does want to reach out, please know my door is always open.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dawn. And thank you, everyone who's tuned in today. And this is it for today. Until next time, have a good one. Well, that brings to an end today's episode of Crash, Burn, Rise Again. It's been fantastic to have you with us today, and I hope you can join me next time. I also hope you've really enjoyed and maybe even learnt something today. What I ask next is, if you're loving what you're hearing, please subscribe on whatever channel you normally listen to your podcasts, or on my YouTube channel. And you can also follow along and find all previous podcast episodes on my website, recastcoaching.com.au. If you're enjoying the podcast, the other thing I'd love is if you can share and recommend to any friends, family, and colleagues who you think would benefit from a little bit of crash, burn, rise again. Thanks so much, and until next time, bye for now.